Hi, I'm Josh.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Al. Now, we understand that every 3 seconds a new podcast is created, and now there's actually one podcast for every 3 people.
So we just wanted to take a minute to say thank you very much for downloading this one, and we hope you enjoy it.
In a nutshell, we realised that some of our film tastes weren't what you'd call conventional. So we decided to talk about them and hopefully shed some light on some films that either didn't get what we felt deserved at the time, or we just wanted to rewatch and talk about them.
You don't have to have seen the film, but if you haven't, you may want to just give it a quick Google.
What's the and that?
Enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to Just Films and That, a podcast where we discuss films that we feel may be underrated, underappreciated, or we just want to talk about them. I'm Josh Hallam and I'm here with Adam Ward.
Oh.
Usually I'd say I'm here with Al Bollins, but he's off doing some actings. But we're joined by an equally special guest, or guests, as I should say. We're joined by David and Luke from Nocturnal Coast. How are you both, chaps?
All right, yeah. Good evening.
Yeah, excellent. So we always start with a random question, which you may or may not know. I'll ask Adam first so that you know. Adam, what's the best chocolate bar?
You really put me on the spot here. People will probably disagree with me on this, but I am fond of a Twix.
That's a biscuit.
Yeah, it's coated in chocolate.
Fair enough.
It's a
Twix.
Yeah, I do like Twixes. Or maybe a Mars bar. I grew up loving Mars bars.
Yeah, I don't mind a Mars bar. What about you, David?
My favourite chocolate bar?
Yeah.
I think I'd have to say a Whisper.
A Whisper?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? Whisper Gold.
Is that the one with caramel?
Whisper Gold, yeah. They only bring them out at certain times of the year, usually around Easter time. Whisper Gold.
I think, no. Luke?
Bit controversial. Dark chocolate, so I suppose Bourneville.
Not Bourneville.
Controversial, but pineapple pizza.
Someone's already a dad over there. Bourneville.
Something like that.
I don't know what mine is. Everyone always scoffs at this, so I've got no right to scoff at you. I like a dime or a dame, depending on what you say it's called.
I didn't know they still made those.
Yeah, and I like a crunchy as well.
I've never heard
Yeah,
of
Crunch is a good shout.
Dame or dime?
I've neither.
It's like a solid caramel covered in chocolate. No,
In the mid '90s, they had a commercial about like it being like an armadillo. You remember that? Do you ever see that? I remember in primary school they had this commercial. It was about how the chocolate bar is like an armadillo, how it's tough on the outside and soft on the inside, or something like that.
No, you're considerably older than me.
Yeah, this is it. I'm an old man.
You're
I'm an old
18
man.
months
I
older
swear
than
that's
me,
a real
so.
thing. Listeners, if you do recall this advert, let us know.
So this week's film is Nocturnal Animals, so obviously spoilers for that. I don't think it's that old, so do be wary if you don't want it spoiled, but still listen to the episode, just listen to it on silent or whatever. It was actually picked by Luke. You picked this one, specifically yourself, because Dave, I know you hadn't seen it. To give you a little bit of background on the film, it is based on a book. It's Amy Adams plays an art gallery owner who is sent a manuscript by her ex-husband called Nocturnal Animals, and the story gets kind of more and more graphic, and she starts to pick it apart in terms of how their relationship ended and that sort of stuff. And that's all I'll really say about it, because we'll talk about it more in due course. So, Luke, why did you pick it?
I think it's a very misunderstood film. I feel like all the reviews I've read or people's opinion, they're not quite getting at what the film's about. Like, to me, I don't think I've seen a film that's reached that level of regret.
Oh, right,
Or
okay.
It's kind of like the way it flows and the way it's told. It's very harsh in the sense of one's regret to a decision in the past. And so, for example, throughout Amy Adams' character, when she's reading a novel, she will pick out things, because obviously we're watching the novel from her perspective. Two women in the novel, they're dead on the red couch. It didn't have to be a red couch. We're watching it from how she's seeing it.
You're interpreting her interpretation.
Exactly.
If that's
Yeah.
correct.
And if you remember when in reality, she's telling her ex-husband Edward that she doesn't quite understand his writing, or it's not that quite on par. She's sat on a red couch when their arguments like sort of stems, and they get really heated over like sensitivity and how you write something. And I feel like people misunderstand how someone can take something from someone much bigger than they do at the time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very layered film. So I suppose you're going at it from the point of view of wanting to revisit it, and you feel it might be slightly underappreciated. Would I be right in saying?
Yeah, I think.
And obviously, I suppose, without stating the obvious, you're called Nocturnal Coast. It's called Nocturnal Animals.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking you took the band name from the film?
Yeah, I feel like, because when I was writing a group of songs at first, I wanted to like call them, the collection of songs, Nocturnal Animals, because something I had experienced kind of reminded me of the film.
All right,
like,
so I see.
yeah, like between me and someone else, there was I wouldn't say parallel, but there was definitely a similarity. And
Yeah.
I was writing these songs with the influence of the film and the influence of the situation I was in. And originally I wanted an album called that, but the coast part of the band name came from being like living by the coast, by the coast myself.
Makes sense.
And I always wrote the lyrics late at night, so I feel like that was a lovely get together of like the film helping me write the songs,
Yeah.
and where I was writing the songs was, late at night on the coast. So it's sort of
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not a musician myself. I know Adam, you are a little bit of a musician
to an
yourself. Have you been in bands? And stuff?
Oh yeah.
Because I always I've never been. I wish I could learn the guitar or the piano or something like that. And I've always thought, whenever you think of a band name, it always sounds like an impersonation of a band name. But I quite like a name for a band that has a story behind it, or a meaning, or a subtlety, a message, that kind of thing. Like your own name, or I don't know, like Joy Division or someone like that. Like, obviously it's quite dark.
Yeah.
But it's got a meaning behind it.
I feel like it's annoying for me really, because I wish it was just like, I just pick two words together. Like there's but there's like depth behind it, and I don't know, some people might see that as like trying too hard, but actually it was just it just felt right. You know what I mean? Like,
and also your output affects how you remembered. Like if Arctic Monkeys weren't really good, people probably just think, what a stupid name. Do you know what I mean? But because they're
people
good.
always did. Like they always said the name was terrible in the early days. And I remember I saw an interview with Alex Turner, and he was saying about John Cooper Clarke being the first person to say he liked the name.
Yeah. It's funny. The Arctic Monkeys, they went for the period when we were like every MP was trying to look cool. It was like Arctic Monkeys been out for about 5 years, and they were going, of course, I'm a very big fan of the Arctic Monkeys. So moving back onto the film, Adam, had you seen this going into it?
No, I hadn't seen the film. I knew the film.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew some of kind of the critical response and who was in it, but I didn't really know a great deal about it. And I kind of liked that going in, because I had no kind of preconception on what to expect.
Yeah. And Dave, am I right in thinking you hadn't seen it either, had you?
I only watched the film last night, so I guess I have the perspective of someone who's only seen it once and's going off memory of that first viewing.
It's not an easy watch. It's not Toy Story.
Yeah.
Like pop it on a Sunday afternoon, have a cup of tea, lovely. I think it's something you have to get into and really watch and really take it in.
Definitely quite rough.
It's something that I found from my experience of it. It was a film that when you watch it for the first time, you think to yourself, he's got the manuscript. Oh, is this about a story that actually happened? Is this something that actually happened to the family? And then recounting what's happened, and then you think to yourself, oh wait, shit, this is actually just fiction, and maybe it's just a manifestation of how he felt about her leaving him.
I'd agree. A lot of the times when I was watching it, I kind of disassociated the fact that this was the novel, and it seemed more like this was kind of their story, especially with kind of how much she emoted while reading it, like how much it physically affected her. But then you kind of as you're watching it, you're realizing, it's because it's referencing this thing that happened in their relationship, as opposed to this bigger thing that seems to be happening in the novel.
It's so layered, isn't it? It really is. It's like, for example, obviously for those who haven't seen the film, it gets darker and really violent and quite graphic in points. But it's within the manuscript of the book that Amy Adams' character is reading. And there's times when things will happen to a character, and I would feel sad or hot, things are happening to Jake Gyllenhaal's character, who is the fictional character within the book, and I'll be like, oh, that's horrible or whatever. And then something in my head go, yeah, but it's just
You realise
fictional
that
character.
it's just
It's like,
Well, I've read the book, but it's by an author called Austin Wright, called Tony and Susan, and there's no actual like when it goes into the novel Nocturnal Animals. There's no like description of the people. So when we're watching the film, she instantly sees him as the dad,
the dad.
and then a ginger woman, and then a ginger daughter as the family, which was like her daughter with her other husband and like her ex-husband, and then it's the car that stops them with the hillbillies in Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. The car they're in, the green car, can't remember what car it is, but it's the same car that is between Tony, Jake Gyllenhaal's like real character, if you want to call it, and fella at the time when she's getting the abortion. There's a green car, and it's in between them both, and that's the same car that gets in the way of the family in the novel. But she's seeing that green car.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's that interpretation of
how is she viewing
of something.
the
I mean,
story?
like I obviously I also hadn't seen it going into it, and I'm similar to you, Adam. All I remember thinking was I knew it was quite harshly treated when it came out, and I also knew it was a Tom Ford film. So I went in thinking, well, it's gonna be very stylish. It's gonna have a good cast. And other than that, I knew it was quite kind of dark. Adam, what did you think?
Yeah, I really liked it. It was really dark. I think it's quite different from the things we've had on the show so far, which is what kind of appealed to me about it. It was something apart from the fact that
It's not Ferdinand, is it?
it's definitely not Ferdinand. It's definitely not Austin Powers. But no, it was interesting. Really interesting layered performances. I think from Amy Adams especially, because she doesn't have a lot of lines, but she's sort of so, you see so much of her character just in kind of her facial expression. I think sort of looking at it from kind of an acting perspective, that was so interesting to me that she could do so much with so little.
Yeah, I did know. Thinking about it in hindsight, she didn't really have any lines.
No,
did she?
yeah.
I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult job for an actor to do, which is just reacting to something that you'll see that like. There's a big thing, isn't there, about like Tom Hardy? Because for about 3 years, Tom Hardy, every film he was in, it's like half his face would be covered, so I'd have to act with his eyes.
Bane.
Mad Max, Bane, Dunkirk, all these, he's got half a face.
Christopher Nolan doesn't like his face.
And it's the same in this. You know, Amy Adams is essentially reading a book through the whole film and reacting to it. I mean, I don't think there is a bad performance in this film. I think it's so well acted.
At the time, I remember I was thinking, this film's going to be like revolutionary.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just from my viewing because I was so into it. But I was like reading about it and people reviewing the characters and how they were performed. And like, not to sound like ignorant, but I feel like they just didn't get it. Like, I just feel like they didn't understand the performances.
The criticism that I mainly saw of it, and it's funny that we're reusing it now, is that it was mainly style over substance. You know, everyone's really well dressed, everyone's really well off, that kind of thing. But I think I disagree with that because I think that it's purposefully stylish because it's showing you what her character has in her life and what she's lacking. So she may have all these material possessions, absolutely stunning house, amazing car, lovely clothes. And everything is, if you look in the real world, everything is very clean and sharp and almost quite cold and empty, which I think is what people have interpreted as style over substance. But I disagree. I think it's showing that. I think it's purposefully cold,
it's haunting,
and purposely purposely style over substance. And I agree with you there. I think there is an element of misinterpretation over that.
Yeah, well, especially like I'm a big fan of Stanley Kubrick, and I feel like that was right up his street. I feel like obviously if he was still around, he'd have done it. I feel like Tom Ford did a really good job, but I feel like it reminded me of like The Shine and A Clockwork Orange. It just gave me elements of that sort of dystopia sort of feel, but it was still all real. Like
it's an absence of things makes you focus on what matters, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and It's funny because I know the criticism I remember thinking it was I think it was quite an ill-informed criticism. I don't know who it was. It might have just been a general internet thing. But someone said, "Oh, it's just basically an advert for Tom Ford clothes." But there's not. There isn't actually a single Tom Ford product in it.
No.
And I could never ever afford them. But I love like Tom Ford suits. If you don't know what they are, if you think of Daniel Craig's James Bond, he does all of Daniel Craig's suits for the James Bond. But very sleek and stylish, quite minimalist. But again, there's nothing that she wears, as far as I know. This is just what I've read that anyone wears in the film that is Tom Ford. I mean, from Tom Ford's point of view, you wouldn't exactly want some of the characters in these films wearing clothes.
Aaron Taylor Johnson's character.
Exactly. Dave, you hadn't seen it before. What did you think based on last night's view? I'm not going to lie, I also watched it last night, but I like to watch it as freshly as possible going into the record.
So, it is a film that you have to focus a lot on.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can, I guess, just have on the background and still understand the main plot of the story.
No, it's not Speed or something like that.
It's something you really, really have to focus on and something you maybe have to do a little bit of background research on.
Yeah.
Like it's with it, the way the narrative flowed confused me a little bit at first, but as the plot went on, I sort of got it.
You click into place, don't you?
You start making connections, and you think to yourself, "Oh, wait, this didn't actually happen. It's just a work of fiction." And you realize that it's and then it goes to go back into the past about when they were
absolutely. It goes back to when they first met. Well, re-met. At like university sort of times.
Jake Gyllenhaal's character Edward in the real world is not actually in it in the present day. He's only in it in the past as a young man.
I like
which
that
is
aspect.
good. It's like you say, it's non-linear. So she's reading the book whilst thinking about her own relationship, whilst also in a real life. So it's you're kind of spinning three plates at the same time, if you like.
Yeah, it's really difficult to actually construct a narrative that interweaves so much and still have a consistent flow on it. It's very difficult to do that. And props to the actual writing.
It's funny. It was like in the final scene when she's waiting in the restaurant. I was expecting Jake Gyllenhaal's character to arrive with some kind of eye patch or something on, just because of where we'd last seen him in the story.
Eye patch?
Yeah, because he gets his head smashed, and he's got like it looks like he's lost his vision.
You mean the character in the book?
Yeah. Even though I know that was the book, I was still expecting him. Like, is he gonna have some kind of scar or something?
I think that represented him not showing up. Actually, I feel
definitely.
He's blind to her kind of thing.
Well, to me, the Bobby. The detective, he is the conscious of Edward in real life. So like he's quite on it and he's on it, but he's also dying. And then a year passes and then they reopen the case, so it's almost like not giving up on something, which would be Edward sending the book to her. Yeah. And then he disappears before he kills Aaron Taylor Johnson. The detective disappears, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And that's sort of him letting go of his conscience of the past, and he's not weak anymore, and he's sort of like a strong character, and he can get over this. And then obviously his eyes battered, the left side of his side, which is like the creative side, or like as you want it, like love, lust, and that's disappeared now. And then he obviously died, from impact he dies, and that to me either represents he's moved on from her in the real world, or he has actually died, or he will die soon, or like he's given hints that like I'm over you, whatever. But then there's also a really like sort of like a controversial opinion I have where he didn't show up maybe because he is actually too weak to reignite a past. You know what I mean? No one actually.
It's all open to interpretation.
That's
what's
really
really good about it, isn't it?
Yeah, I read online that him not showing up is his kind of ultimate revenge.
Well, the film's like the revenge. Let's not beat around the bush.
In the art gallery as well. That big sign. Yeah.
Well, they try the whole film to show you what it's about revenge, and then like halfway through, like, fuck it, here's a big piece of art saying revenge on it.
Just you're not getting it.
It was interesting. Sort of the art throughout the film became sort of more blatant as it went along. Like it was quite kind of open to interpretation. Then as you go along, it's revenge. Here's a shot in a field of a guy with a gun shooting another guy. It got more and more kind of blatant isn't the word I'm looking for, but more.
Well, it becomes
In your
more
face.
parallel.
Yeah.
Like when the person who works for us shows the phone of the baby,
Yes.
and then the character of Aaron Taylor, like the rapist hillbilly, shows up. That's like sort of her own like mind thinking like she's seeing a baby which she chose to lose behind Edward's back, and she's using that as a parallel in the novel of someone taking the family away from them.
Yeah, it's like the two worlds. And also, it also deals with that thing of her never sleeping, which as anyone who struggles to sleep knows, that's when you start, not necessarily hallucinating, but, if it gets bad, you do. But the two worlds start to bleed together, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the concept of her reading the manuscript, I mean, that device of the kind of story within the story is not a new thing. If you think about, like, The Princess Bride, that's where someone's reading the story, or the idea of people from the real world, if you like, playing people in the fictional world. That's something that was done in something like, if you look at The Wizard of Oz, like at the end of that, all the actors who are the Scarecrow and the Tin Man are her family. So it's not even new, but I've never seen it done in such an adult way with such kind of dark themes, if you like.
It's more raw. Like, I think they don't beat around the bush. They're not like, to me anyway, like with a lot of them films, you feel like it's a bit of a dream. But with this film, I just didn't get that. I just got, even reading the books harder first time, like I got about 20 pages and was like, I'm going to start again.
Yeah.
Because it does cut. Like, it does say when it's cut into each part, but I feel within the screenplay, I think it's quite, I think it's diverse enough for you to follow it first time. Obviously, you said, David, you got to be focused on it.
Yeah.
Which I went to cinema to see it first time, so like I was just on the whole thing.
I'd like to see it in the cinema.
I feel like that's an important thing to raise with some film. Like some films, like to be in it, like Wind River, like in the cinema was great.
I think my example that comes to mind for me is Inception.
Oh yeah.
I think when you first watch Inception, there isn't like, even if you concentrate, I think I came out of that film and I was like mentally tired.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm trying to track all the layers in my head.
Prisoners is like that.
Yeah, Prisoners for sure.
Yeah.
What did you like about the film, Adam?
I thought the story was great. Performances were fantastic. I think that was the big thing for me. Aaron Taylor Johnson was just unreal.
Yeah,
he's so incredibly unlikable, but he still had that kind of like that sort of like rugged charm, despite being so horrible. Like you could see how he could like worm his way into those kind of situations.
I reckon he could have played the Joker, from being honest with you.
Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Yeah,
I don't see why not.
I feel like it, even with that character.
Yeah.
When he's like tapping on the window.
Yeah, that
like,
darkness.
pale,
Yeah.
Pink. And
I think he's quite an underrated actor, Aaron Taylor Johnson, because he's been around for ages.
Nowhere Boy.
I was gonna mention Nowhere Boy, which, fun fact, was shot in our school. Well, part of it was shot in our school. The toilets.
I was like, oh my god, I've pissed there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do that. Shh, keep it down.
You
I
can,
pissed there.
honestly, in that scene, you can almost smell the piss.
Oh no, it's the worst.
I feel like he acts quite sort of sporadically, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's not done that much recently because I think him and his wife have just had
Yeah.
a baby, or like in recent times.
thought
But
you-
he's-
I thought you were going to say divorce.
His wife is the director of Nowhere Boy.
yeah, that's how they
They
met.
met, like,
yeah.
on set,
and
like-
she wrote or directed
that's
one of the 50 Shades of Grey
Yeah,
films.
yeah, she did.
But I've not seen him. I've seen him act, but when you think like someone's really. That probably sounds a bit. That just doesn't mean to sound condescending. Not that Aaron Taylor Johnson's going to listen to this, but when you can tell someone's really trying, like I've seen him do like Kick-Ass, which he's quite good in, but it's not particularly like a stand-up performance. I've seen him in obviously the second Avengers film. He's fine in that. I've seen him in Nowhere Boy. He's done a few things when he was younger, like Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging. I think it was the first time I was like, he's a proper legit good actor. Not that I wasn't thinking he was, but he's very, very good in this. He's
fantastic.
so creepy.
I think he represents the ideology of the story. I think his character is representing.
Yeah, because the other two, there's three of the gang, but they kind of they do have a name and a face, but not really.
Yeah.
It's like it's him, isn't it? He's the villain.
He's the one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a poor performance in it. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is outstanding.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's pretty good in everything he does. He's always
he's
given
got that
100%.
consistency. Like
Nightcrawler.
this, I was going to say
Yeah.
he had like a sort of a 3-4 year window of sort of only doing great stuff like Nightcrawler.
I've
not actually seen
have you ever
Nightcrawler.
seen Source Code?
No, that is good.
Oh, that's a great Jake Gyllenhaal.
David
film.
Bowie's son directed that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
Um,
fantastic film.
but he's always good. Have you seen Jarhead?
Yeah,
He's very good in it.
Yeah.
He's really good in that.
I remember the first film I saw him do was this film called Bubble Boy.
Oh, that's
was
really weird. Yeah.
So weird. Really weird.
Is he young?
Yeah, really young. I think it was before he did Donnie Darko. But he plays some boy who basically has this illness where he can't go sort of outside, so he lives in a bubble.
Like there's another one, the John Travolta one.
Yeah,
the same story,
similar to that. Yeah, but it kind of turns out, spoiler, that he's not actually anything wrong with him. There was when he was a kid, but then his mum just wanted to protect him, and he's had this whole
proxy.
and then I think there's a bit where like his bubble breaks or something when he's outside in the real world, and then it's like, oh, I'm fine. It was a very strange film.
I thought Michael Shannon was good in it.
Fantastic.
He's brilliant.
He was the lighthouse of the film.
Yeah, he's the moral centre.
The metronome.
Yeah,
as they call it.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's a really underrated actor.
Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
He's so intense.
Yeah.
Like, if he really was that policeman, you'd shit yourself.
Yeah,
if you had to be interrogated by him, getting right up in your face.
Yeah, it was kind of like he was the sort of the courage of the Jake Gyllenhaal character, wasn't he? Because I think Jake Gyllenhaal in the novel he really represents a kind of the weakness of his character as a person, doesn't he? And that was the strength.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Obviously, we know Luke. We know you love it. What about Dave? What did you like about it specifically?
I think very similar points. It was very well acted. Like I said before, I liked how they tied together all these interweaving plot lines, like the actual manuscript itself, and of course the main character is Susan. Is her name? Is it in the?
Yeah.
The main character Susan. I like her dealing with almost like nihilism in a way. She's dealing with lack of meaning in her life, misery.
Yeah, I think something I really like is the casting of Isla Fisher and Amy Adams, because they've essentially gone. It's that thing, isn't it, of when you are a film star, you carry with you a certain baggage, and you are. If you've ever studied any film theory, you learn about how you are a product. Same with a band, you aren't. If you look at like Bob Dylan, he's not like a person. He's Bob Dylan. His job isn't. He doesn't go home and he's not Bob Dylan. He is Bob Dylan, that kind of thing. And I think that's one of the things that the film does really well. Is it basically goes, oh, we all know that you confuse Isla Fisher and Amy Adams, so let's make it more confusing for you. Casting them as kind of as each other, kind of thing. I think that's really good. I think the music and the building of tension is brilliant.
It's very Hans Zimmer. Did you say Hans Zimmer earlier?
It reminds me of old Hitchcock films.
Oh yeah,
it's very low strings throughout the whole film to the point where you don't even notice it.
I thought it was Hans Zimmer listening to it, but who was it that did the soundtrack?
It was Abel Korzeniowski.
First on your iTunes list right there.
Yeah, well,
funnily enough.
Because it's A.
I know. But,
that's how the alphabet works, Dave.
It's just a funny coincidence.
It is, because that's the only artist on them.
But yeah, that building of tension was done so well through the music, for sure.
It reminds me of like Psycho, or like you say Vertigo, Rear Window.
There's an interesting music theory called the shepherd tone.
All right.
And when you're making, say it's just 8 bars piece of music, you transpose the pitch 3 times, you low, medium and high, and the medium stays the same volume the whole way through of the 8 bars. The high excels in volume or decreases dependent, and then the top end the opposite. So it sounds like it's reaching something, but it's not. It's just looping, and it sounds like it's building and building.
It's disorientating.
It's just the exact same. It's like in Mario, the castle. Yeah, it's shepherd tone. I
was going to mention that. Yeah,
and it was like in the car, and like like that part.
So it kind of makes you. It plays with your emotions a
little
bit.
Yeah,
so
I
suppose it kind of winds you up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Dunkirk, the soundtrack, the TikTok sounds like it's building and building. It's not. It's just a loop.
I think you get that a lot with a lot of Christopher Nolan films. If you listen to when he made The Dark Knight, the Joker's tone is just one note, and it's just
the Batmobile. It's the shepherd tone.
And I'd say sort of Hans Zimmer over the past about sort of 10 to 15 years, that has been what he's known for. That kind of tone.
And Womp.
And Womp, of course.
Yeah.
The creator of Womp.
He is the creator of Womp.
He is the creator of Womp.
So we'll move on to next. If there's anything that you perhaps dislike or would change? I'll come to you first, Luke, because we've spoken to the guys about what they like. Having watched it again, was there anything you think, oh, actually, I might change? Not necessarily, you don't have to find anything, but we always try and give a balanced argument. Is there anything you'd change?
I don't want to say yeah because I love it, but I feel I like the fact you never meet present day Edward, and I feel like I wouldn't change that, but I'd find interesting if we did, but it was like the first scene and that was it. So I feel like it would just keep adding to like the whole story of is he going to come back or not. But I feel like it was a purpose thing. Obviously, it was.
I think maybe give the audience a little bit more closure.
Yeah, like I love the way he wasn't in it, like present, like so I wouldn't. But I just think it'd be interesting if they had some sort.
Yeah, I can see that. What about yourself, Adam?
Yeah, that's something I'd agree with. I think, that adding of closure in those final moments. But then I think you kind of have closure in itself in the fact that he hasn't shown up to the dinner.
Love that, yeah.
And also a really minor thing, Michael Sheen was really underused in this film. I think he had one line. He was the gay husband.
Purple blazer.
And I think he's such a great actor.
But it was a very, very good line.
Oh, it was a great line. It was a great line.
Talking about we're driven.
But I just think it's interesting. You see someone like Isla Fisher and Michael Sheen, and they're so minimally in this film for such big actors, which I think is sort of a testament to the film and the project itself.
It goes to show how many people want to work with like Tom Ford,
without doubt,
people like that.
Clearly, out of God's vision.
Yeah,
what about yourself, David? Anything you'd change? I mean, you don't have to say anything.
I mean, it's one of those things where I'd have to watch it again to really think of something I'd change. I'm not really sure. I'm terrible at thinking of criticisms on the first watch.
Yeah, I see that.
By the time I get to a third watch, I'm like, right, okay, bullet points. But for now, I'd have to
go and
watch
watch it 2 more times and come back to us.
Yeah, it'll be the second podcast when we're talking about something entirely different.
He's like, oh, about Nocturnal Animals.
And it occurs to me.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't think there's a lot wrong with it. There's two really minor, similar to yourself, Adam, there's two really minor things I'd say to it about it. It's a little dark at points, and I don't mean the subject matter. I mean it is literally a little dark.
Physically dark.
Like the Game of Thrones episode.
Yeah, there was times I was watching it, I was like, I'm not absolutely sure what's going on. Yeah. Like when they're driving in the desert. I know that's kind of the point. But we're just doing it in the interest of balance. There's quite a few like bath and shower scenes. There's a lot of people in the shower in this film. So many showers.
Josh, you've got to be clean.
You do have to be clean.
They're just trying to advertise Dove bars or something.
Yeah, I'm just jealous because I don't have a shower or a bath.
I feel like also with the film, a really important issue I feel like everyone forgets to think about with it is the whole film is about him saying like, fuck you, I can write a novel, here's my novel. But then you think, could he have written that novel if that didn't happen, if that bad relationship ended? Yeah. So which therefore goes to the point we're best creatively when we're a bit broken. And I feel like
it's chicken and egg, isn't it?
And like, so I feel like it's really important, an important point though.
I completely agree. And I think sort of to the same extent, they do it in La La Land quite well in the fact that they can't really be the creative people they want to be when they're together, and when they're away from each other, they go and thrive. And I think there's definitely a lot to it. You need that, like you say, you need that kind of negative energy sometimes to thrive creatively.
Yeah. That's where like a lot of the lyrics are after this film stem from the idea of that. Like, I praise the people who made that film. To be honest, like I was just, you just find that film like because I think there are a lot of films that I love in a different way, but like I think Spirited Away is a similar experience for me.
Beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Like it's up. Like, I feel like I put that and Nocturnal Animals in like a separate. They're not films, if you get me.
They're experiences. Almost. Sometimes things just speak to you. Depending on where you are in your life, because you can revisit stuff and be like, or revisit and think it's better. Like we did a film before Christmas, where one of my favourite films is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and I didn't feel like I did it justice in the episode, and that's because I realised I couldn't really justify the fact that I really like it because of my emotional baggage of I watched it with some friends, so we were always quoting it to each other. That's not really good enough when you're doing a podcast, so I kind of felt like I didn't justify it kind of thing. That's not to say that I don't like it, but sometimes you can't always interpret, well, I just like it, or I just saw it at the right time in the right way.
I think that's what Almost Famous was for me. I think seeing it at sort of 13, 14, 15, that kind of age, it was the right time to see that film and kind of the effect it had on me kind of as a person.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I think when you're doing this podcast, when you're doing this sort of thing and you're picking films, we quite often, we try to pick films that aren't necessarily, we're not that emotionally attached to, but we all have done. And in that particular one, Almost Famous for Adam, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang for me. I'm not sure what it'd be for Al, but
probably Ferdinand.
Yeah, probably Ferdinand. Probably. I don't know. He didn't pick Austin Powers, did he? He hated Austin Powers. No, and it's. I think those are the episodes you come away and you think, nah, didn't really do myself justice.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
And it's not because you can't.
No,
because you can't
I'm still
recreate
thinking that right
now.
now.
You can't recreate that feeling of because it just hit me in the sweet spot.
Because the film meant so much to you. You're like, I really want this to be a good episode because I love this film so much. But sometimes they end up being sort of the worst episodes because you put maybe not so much pressure on it, but because you're like, everything was great. I loved it.
Why don't you all like it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you don't like it, you're clearly wrong.
That is what I'm like with this film. Like, you didn't like it, go.
This is here's the list of why you're wrong about
leave
that.
Leave me alone, dude.
So we'll move on to the questions section where we kind of address things that might have come up during the film. So if you do have any, throw them out to everybody. That's cool. The first one I could think of was what genre would you say this is, Adam?
It's a funny one because it's almost like you'd almost say it's a thriller in terms of like what happens in it, but then at the same time it's kind of like an anti-romance, isn't it? It's hard to kind of nail it down. Yeah, it's kind of like hard to nail it down to one particular thing. I think it's kind of like action thriller, but I think it's doing it a disservice to call it that because of kind of the depth of the story itself.
I think a lot of the best films play with the genre in different ways, and it's that thing of it's almost like it could be a horror, it could be a thriller, it could be just a drama. I mean, it's obviously it's not a comedy, it's not a musical or whatever, but it plays with genre. I mean, what about you, Dave? What would you say it is in terms of genre?
You can list, like you just said, you can list the things that it's not, but it's multi-genre. I mean, that's for certain.
Yeah, it tells the line.
It does. It's. I think I have got to say, because it depends on what narrative it is. In certain narratives, it is a thriller, but when it's in reality, it is, like you said, anti-romance. It is just like a fuck you kind of film.
Well, it's funny because it's almost like there's the genre of the book she's reading and then the genre of the film.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
like almost two separate things. I mean, what would you say yourself, Luke?
It's interesting you said before, like people mess with the genre of the film they're making, like they go in and out of different ones, and I feel like that's why it's very important. Why I don't think we should really be trying to put it into a genre. It's almost, I think at the end of the day, it's a thriller. You know, the screenplay you're watching, it's a thriller, but like it's just, to me, it's a piece of drama. It's a piece of art, almost. Funnily enough, it's about art in some aspects.
I think it's almost easy to say what it's not than what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of the best films, like you say, it's not there to be like pigeonholed and it's this. Yeah. You know, when you're watching a Judd Apatow comedy or a comic book film, you know what you're going in for, but this is a lot more intellectual. It's open to interpretation, and I think the best films do that. Yeah. And I think that's what The Shining.
It kind of when it's open to interpretation, it kind of feels like there's more than what the movie offered. Like it's like you go off the movie, it's like, oh, it's not over because there's more for me to learn.
And it doesn't like obviously Luke has managed to extrapolate a lot of the meaning and the layers and stuff, and it doesn't spoon feed you that. You have to look for it, and I think that's what it's really good at. But that is also the flip side of that is you do have to concentrate whilst you're watching it, like we've already said. I suppose slightly easier question to answer or not, depending on what you think of. Why do you think Amy Adams doesn't play
I know.
the character in the book.
She is too scared, or she is too in denial. So when reading it, identify her as the wife of who is she?
Yeah.
Who?
She can't put herself in that place.
Yeah, she can't.
Yeah.
She's in denial. She won't. She's putting this story together: the red couch, the green car. Her ex-husband is the guy, and her daughter is a ginger woman. Putting all this together, and yet she won't put herself in where she knows is.
Can't face
Yeah,
it.
she kind of has to just disassociate herself
Yeah.
from the story.
Yeah,
to make it seem less real in her own mind.
Even so, it's Isla Fisher, who is
Yeah.
also someone who you would agree looks like her.
Yeah.
and similarly acts like her facially, and I guess just from an acting point of view, I think that also shows, even though she's trying so hard not to make her that character, there's still something slipping through. That's why it's Isla Fisher.
Honestly, what's blowing my mind is maybe because I was very tired and didn't read the credits. I thought that was her.
Oh yeah,
really?
loads
I
of people
thought,
said that.
I thought
yeah,
that
yeah.
was her.
Loads of
Because they
people said-
look so similar.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, it just looks a little bit different, but maybe it's just a lighting. But now that you said it, it's like, wow, I really
Well,
can't see it.
young Jake had the excuse of no beard and
Yeah,
makeup.
and also,
Like,
it's very dark when she's in
Yeah,
it as well.
yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I would have loved to see, and this would have been very Kubrick, if in certain elements it was her, but just for flashes.
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
like when they're grabbing her, it might just flash to be her for a second, then the next time you see her, it's
Yeah.
back to Isla Fisher. But that's just me.
I love it when you talk about a film like this in such in depth and you interpret the film. I just get the image of like if maybe someone listened to it like the director, you'd just be thinking, well, she was too busy. So like, look, that's right.
was
She's not
not-
really-
she didn't
she
want
was
to,
making
yeah.
3 films that
Yeah,
year,
yeah.
and I couldn't afford the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Just can't be asked.
Yeah. And then this was the final question, and this is, you can go as deep as you like with this, or you can give me one sentence depending on what you think. I'll start with you, Adam. What do you think the message of the film is, if there is one? It doesn't have to be.
That's a very big question. I don't know. I think the message of the film really is revenge. I think it's that thing of he's proved her wrong, and it's sort of like he's had the last laugh in that. Here's my book, and I think one of the big things for me was, and it's something like I noticed in that restaurant scene, is she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. And I think that was so very symbolic of where she was kind of mentally and emotionally in terms of how she viewed him, that she felt she'd made a mistake. She's gone to have the meal with him, maybe to rekindle things, especially with the fact that it was clear that her husband was cheating on her. And he's just had that kind of ultimate disrespect of, nope, I've had the last laugh. You're there on your own. My book's probably going to be a success.
So you think it's revenge?
Yeah, I'd say it's revenge. Yeah.
What about you, Dave?
I'll say it this way in 3 words and 1 letter. Fuck you, I win.
Do you think that's the message?
Yes.
Tom Ford's saying, fuck you, I win.
Well, not him directly.
Take that, Calvin Klein.
Rather the message of the character.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the director's the message of Tom Ford. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would just agree to that point. It is mainly just about revenge.
Well, sometimes they're just telling a story. There doesn't always have to be a message,
Yeah.
but I think this does have one.
But the message that's communicated through the main character is that it's a big fuck you.
Yeah, it is.
And not just through like the book shows it through very physical means, through very brutal, dark physical means, and he shows it through the means that suit him best, which is almost kind of passive aggressively.
Yeah, definitely. And that seemed to be when he's the real person, it was all quite passive aggressive. And again, that shows kind of, again, going back to that weakness of him as a person, that he couldn't sort of say it to her. This is his way of doing it. I'm just going to let that sit.
Luke, I'm intrigued. What do you think the message is?
I feel like you disagree.
Yeah, I do disagree.
Yeah.
Actually, I agree. It definitely is about revenge, but I think that's the message coming from her mind. She thinks it's about revenge, but we're forgetting Jake Gyllenhaal's Edward Sheffield. He says the message of the film when they're breaking up in the street. He says, "Do you love me?" She says, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, when you love someone or something, you can't just let that go. You've got to fight for it. You've got to keep hold of it. No matter what, if you love that, don't be so naive. Keep hold of that. And I feel, although he is getting revenge, it's not so much an angry, or it could be, but it's not meant to be. It's more like, I told you. Like,
I told you so.
It's. You were saying it. She had the wedding ring off. She was regretting it. She said his name out loud when she read the book. She said Edward. It's all getting to that point of he was right. Like, you know, if you do love someone or something, so it could be a job. It could be it's just anything. I think the whole message is when you love something or someone, don't go against the grain with it. Don't like try and push it away. You know, work at it. And like, all right, maybe it doesn't happen. Like, who knows? But I feel like that's important. Like, he says it. His character says it, and that resonated with me the most for the message of the film.
And see, I kind of agree a little bit with what you've also, but I also think it's a little bit kind of about not compromising. I think it's about not giving up on what really matters for material possessions, kind of thing. Because I think she leaves Jake Gyllenhaal because she kind of stops believing in him, and then goes with Armie Hammer, and she has all the clothes and money and lovely stuff in the world and a successful job, but she's unhappy. And I think it's about compromising what you really want for what is maybe the best thing to do. Or maybe, I suppose, a simpler way to put it would be, you know, believing in what you love. Kind of thing.
Exactly, though, yeah. No.
Or material possessions can't fill a void.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got deep here, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Maybe it's just about, you know...
Some things require... Like, meaning can't be bought, and some things just do require...
I think it shows in the film some people are happy with that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
their husbands, the people at the arch, like
Yeah, her parents.
It made a very parents, exactly. It made a very good point of her not enjoying it compared to everyone. Like, she was very miserable, she was very isolated, but like everyone giving advice were content in that material world.
Maybe find what you actually like and don't compromise on that.
Yeah, and that goes back to Jake's character saying, you know, you might love your materialistic things, but that is not what the love is. Whether that's relationship or love in general, don't let that go for something else. As you said,
as the Beatles,
to compromise.
As the Beatles once said, "Can't buy me love."
Well, I suppose moving on then to the usual kind of critical reception and how we think it was received, and if we think that's fair. To give you a general idea, we don't tend to put numbers on it, but in reference to Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at about 73% from both audience and critics. IMDb 7.5%, so more or less the same on both websites. Do we think that's fair?
I think it's a little low.
You think that's a little low?
I'd be looking more the 8.
Yeah,
I think an
higher.
8 is about right for me.
Okay. Yeah, what do you think, Dave?
I tend to look at like what it was rated before watching the movie, and I did think to myself like, 7.5. Let's see how this is. And I finished watching it. I thought, like I could see why some people would rate it low, because maybe they misunderstood several themes about it.
But it's subjective.
But it's subjective. Yeah, it's subjective. But like, I think it deserved higher. You know, obviously, it's an average.
Yeah,
but it's. I think overall, it did deserve about an 8. I did enjoy it. It was
Luke,
a very
probably
good
no
movie, so.
need to.
I don't. If you didn't understand it, then fine.
Yeah,
like rate it however you want.
But you'd say that was underrated.
I don't know if it is like.
You say it's subjective, isn't it?
If to me, to me it's 10. Like, you know, it's one of them like, we would never give a 10 on a film, but why? It doesn't really matter. Like, I feel like I love that film, and to me, I think everybody should understand it. They don't, and that's fine. I think, in all honesty, I thought it was lower than that. I thought, from my memory, it would have been lower than that. But that's based on me thinking not everyone understood it.
Suppose the figures I've given to you there are based on people who will literally go on a website and rate it. So very few people go on those websites unless there's a targeted thing and give poor reviews. Which is why I suppose things like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes can sometimes either be really skewed or sometimes be really accurate of the general consensus. I think that's about right. What those ratings say, I think, is for me what I thought is right, but I do think the film should be seen more. So sometimes we say it's not necessarily underrated, because those ratings for me reflect maybe a little bit under what I thought, but I do think more people should see it, because I think it's a really interesting film, and it's certainly one I think it could be shown in stuff like film theory on construction and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it could be studied in literature, I think, as a film,
Yeah.
or like you know.
I'd say the same thing about Adam Sandler's That's My Boy.
Would you? We'll go underseen, possibly underrated then.
Yeah, I'd
generally.
agree. Yeah, I'd agree.
Oh, it's definitely underrated, but it should be seen more.
I think whilst we've got you, we should have a little bit of a chat about you guys as musicians
Aye.
and as a
Alright.
band and all that. Obviously, there's 2 of you here, but there's 6 or 5?
5 of us.
Five,
Yeah.
yeah.
5.
I mean, how did you guys kind of? You've been together a couple of years, haven't you? Maybe 2
Yeah,
years. something like
so yeah, well, our drummer Alex, I just came out of a band as a guitarist, and I was going out around Crosby and seeing Alex drum in a band, and then like thought he's alright him, and then a few months passed, he fell out of that band, and my friend Joel was friends with Alex and sort of got us together to go and have a jam. And it went well, and then a few weeks later, met David on a night out.
Yes.
Like, he was in my sister's year at school, but we didn't really know. Like, we just bumped into each other by chance. Spoke about music. I showed you a tune or two, and then he came along to play bass guitar. And then my friend James came along to play guitar. Nathan, who's in the band now, he wasn't at the time, but he got me onto James. He joined the band. I suppose about a year we've been a proper band. I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, just over a year we, pinpointed Nocturnal Coast, and just a few months ago Nathan joined on keys. He was my best mate from school, so like we're all sort of like best mates or from the same school. So it's a tight unit, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you were going to ask this, but I was just going to say, how would you kind of like describe your sound?
I feel like to describe.
Shall we say Moonlight?
Yeah, like, one time, like a venue asked me for like a little bio, and like about the band to put. And I just thought I'd take the mic and like put like like Dark Moon Synergy or something. But like after a few weeks, I was like, it kind of is like you got them heavy guitars and like Synergy having like all different inputs of energy come together to create that Dark Moon. I feel like that is kind of like that. Like, I mean, in my opinion, we're just a fucking rock band. Like. Like, all right, we can. I can sit there. All like I've always said, no rules. Like, I studied music theory of classical. Like, I did about dissonance, how to write motifs, like scales. But at the end of the day, I've never sat down and been like, how do I write with rules? Like,
you're not a tribute band.
yeah,
or,
and like, but that's I'm happy. Like, like David is the exact. Like, there's so many like as tune. Thanks for coming. Like, there's a couple of notes that like aren't in the scale, and no one has ever said that like. I purposely made sure it doesn't have to be a certain way. It as long as it to me feels emotional or like it reaches a certain thing, because we just went with it, didn't we? Like it's the song. It doesn't matter. Like
Is there an artist or a couple of artists you'd kind of like to emulate in terms of success or anything like that?
Many.
Damon Albarn, Sampha,
Cheeky Girls.
yeah, probably.
Really love Sampha. He's got a real
Sampha's
sound.
great. Yeah, like, well, I think he's like the next Damon Albarn. I think like just that it's like observational lyricism without being observational almost. Like, we have a song called Thick Lost Looks, and the opening lyric I wrote was the scent that sends sleepers to slip, combined with all those pretty lips. And like that's just like me looking at a bar and seeing like people like are too tired to be up, but they're out anyway, and they're trying to show off with like how they're talking. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean. There's
it's-
that kind of witty observational
it's
sense.
metaphor heavy. Like,
So where can people kind of get hold of your music? Is it in all the usual places, all that sort of stuff?
yeah, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all just Nocturnal Coast because they weren't taken.
It's and we must emphasize coast,
Yeah.
because the amount of times that I've had to tell people it's coast, not ghost, toast, post.
When I send
yeah.
emails to people, I'll put Nocturnal Post as the.
Oh yeah,
could build a real brand there,
and we're gonna plug our Nocturnal coasters.
Yeah, we're gonna try and make posters.
with QR codes on the back.
Any upcoming gigs? Check your Facebook out and all that stuff.
Yeah, just check us out on the web.
Okay,
Man.
lovely. Okay, well, we'll move on to this week's game. We usually play this view that we usually play a little game of kind of Connect Four, but I'm going to change it a little bit this week, make it a little bit easier. I'll give you an actor, and you name as many films as you can in 10 seconds. Person who names the most films for that actor wins. No franchise cheating. So if I say Daniel Craig, you can't name 4 Bond films. And also, what I will say, I'm going to take it alternate turns so that the other person can't constantly name the film's the other person.
Like a penalty shoot.
Yeah, like a penalty
shootout.
shootout. Yeah. Okay, we'll go alphabetical order. So that is Adam.
Right.
So 10 seconds. Your first actor is Owen Wilson. Go.
Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah, that's one.
Wedding Crashers.
2.
Marley and Me.
That's 3, and that's 10 seconds. Luke, 10 seconds.
Oh, God. All right.
Starting from in a moment. And your actor is Will Ferrell. 10 seconds starting from now.
Anchorman, the other guys. Will fucking Ferrell. Anchorman, the other guys.
That's 10 seconds.
Daddy's home.
Go on, we'll give you that one.
Yes.
That's 3. We'll give you that one.
That was into
That was-
11 seconds.
that was-
I disagree.
No, too late.
Right. We'll give you that one.
I wish I got Will Ferrell. Next
not-
every damn Will Ferrell
I
films.
don't really like him, so
Yeah.
it's a bit controversial, that one, isn't it?
I would have had a bunch in that one.
Okay, Adam, 10 seconds. Your actress or actor is Reese Witherspoon. 10 seconds starting from now.
Legally Blonde, Sweet Home Alabama, Cruel Intentions. I think I might be spent on those, to be honest.
That's
I think
10 seconds.
it.
That's 3.
That was good. That was good. Go on.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to
Cruel
get anything with
Intentions is a good film.
Yeah, great film.
Okay, Luke, your next performer is Vince Vaughn. 10 seconds starting from
Fuck you, Matt.
now.
I don't know. Vince Vaughn. What does he look like?
You don't know who Vince Vaughn is?
I can't put a face on him.
Do you want me to pass it over to Adam?
Oh, no, wait, no. Keep that Vince Vaughn. Keep that Vince Vaughn.
Alright.
No, because I'm gonna be like,
Yeah, Will, 10 seconds. But
I can't put a face on him.
go on and pass it over to Adam.
Oh, God.
10 seconds starting from now.
Wedding Crashers, Anchorman,
that fucking-
The Breakup. What's that film called when he's in Vegas?
That's 10. It was Swingers you were thinking of.
Swingers with the beautiful babies.
3.
Go on, let's do Vince Vaughn again. I'll do him.
Go on, you want to do Vince Vaughn?
Let's name him.
Right, your performer is Kate Winslet. 10 seconds starting now.
Titanic. Okay. Fucking.
10 seconds. That's 1.
I see you've been getting this technique from
who else?
how I usually play the game.
Who else? What other film is she in?
Revolutionary Road.
The Reader.
The Reader. Is she in The Reader?
Is she in The Reader?
Is that
Yeah,
her?
that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite films. Dave, you know what is it? Read the book.
hang
The
on.
Holiday.
The Holiday.
I don't really know much else.
The
though.
Divergent.
I don't know. She was
Films,
the Reader.
Christmas Carol.
I'm so disappointed.
Are you behind? Are you,
I didn't know she was in A Christmas Carol.
She did a single for it.
Really?
Yeah. 10 seconds starts in a moment, Luke, and your actor is Samuel L. Jackson. Go.
Hateful Eight, Star Wars, Django Unchained. Samuel L. Jackson is also in. Fury, Avengers.
Go on, I'll give you that. I'll give you that one. Right, that's 4. That round.
Fucking Fury. I'm furious.
Right, I'm going to go to a last round. Sudden death. I'm going to say
Even though you're beating me.
I'm going to say an
God.
actor who is not written down there,
Okay.
and you're going to name. There's no time limit, and you're going to name films from each other, taking it in turns. First person to blank or hesitate
God.
based on a couple of
This
seconds.
is not going to go long,
loses.
by the way. This is not going to be long.
Come on,
Are
Jake
you ready?
Gyllenhaal.
Starting with Adam,
Of course
Okay.
it is.
Morgan Freeman,
Shawshank Redemption.
Bruce Almighty.
The Bucket List.
Oh, you fuck. I was going to say bucket list. Evan Almighty. It's not a franchise.
fair enough.
7.
Now You See Me.
Dark Knight.
Shit, yeah, remember that. You fucking hit me with 7. Hit me with 7. Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman.
Boo!
Yeah, go
We
on.
call that a victory for Adam.
Yeah.
Then. Oh, well.
go on.
Anyway, good game. Good game.
Good game.
Well, I think that's just about everything. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch with the pod's email is filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. We're on all the social medias at films_that on Twitter, filmsandthatpod on Instagram, and we're on Facebook. Thanks very much, Luke.
Yeah, nice one.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Thank you very much as well.
And it's goodbye from Adam.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks very much for coming on, chaps. Cheerio. Hello, Josh here again. I just wanted to take another little minute to say thanks again for downloading the podcast. It really is greatly appreciated. If you do like it, then please like, subscribe, and rate us wherever you get your podcasts. Special mentions go to Lee for the music, Luke for the logo, and Abby for producing, editing, and generally putting up with us. If you'd like to get in touch with the podcast, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. Thanks once again. Cheerio.